Hey everyone, I'm Ryan Dunford here with TLR and Horizon. Hopefully everybody can see me and this is working all right today. But this will be on YouTube and Facebook forever. And we're going to finish up building this 8XT here today. I know it's been a little while, but we'll get this filmed and get you guys on your way. Just wait till couple people show up here and then we'll continue along. Hey Hunter, how's it going, buddy? Hey everybody else, Vinny, Mythic. I know it's been a little while since the last video, guys. Sorry, there's lots of stuff going on with the different releases. Just got to manage the time and all. So we're going to start with bag H today. And you're welcome, Hunter. Just kind of truck along here. The last of this isn't too bad. Hopefully some of you guys have actually gotten to drive your truggies at this point in life and are enjoying them. But bag H is mostly all the steering stuff, bell cranks, that kind of thing, drag link, and then get the front end of the car on. But you can see, got kind of two sub bags, H1 and 2. This bag is just keeping some metal parts safe. So I'll open it up and get it out as well. This does use the same front center drive shaft as the 8X Elite does. Hey everybody else. Hey Chad, Charlie. Well, there's nowhere to call, Charlie, for stickers. If you need stickers, you need to either message me or email me your name, address, all that information so I can send them. I actually have them in boxes right over here. So it's just a pack of stickers. Now it has the grill as a separate sticker sheet, and then the winglet stickers are fixed. If you painted your body and you painted a grill into it, for most people, they don't need them. But if you want them, I got them, a whole bunch of them. So anyway, let's continue on. Let's go ahead and build bag H here. The first step is going to be to put essentially your bell cranks together. So we're just going to kind of open up everything. Bag H1 is all the, essentially the steel parts, screws. Set that to the side. Let me just go through and set all the screws up. Hopefully everybody's having a good day and a good week. Been a rough week. I don't like it when we have any issues, but that's part of life. Part of being a product manager is dealing with the issues that are going on. And, unfortunately, some customers have had some issues with their laser nut cars, and we're getting all that sorted out for them. So always glad we can sort them out. Glad the company backs the products like they do, and we can take care of the customers. So it's an important thing for me personally. All right, so we kind of got everything set up. Let me empty this bag. Still set that right over there. Make sure there's nothing got stuck in the boot. And we'll talk about that. And just kind of get all this stuff set up. What are we making? We are making bag H. What are we doing? HJ, HJI, HIJ, whatever, however you want to say it. I put them in the wrong order in the box, so sorry. Hi, Gavin. But let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to build the Servo Saver. I always build with the urethane. It's kind of like those that used to ride skateboards or skates. This is the same type of material. If you look in, I wonder what's going to be easier. If you look in here, you can see there's a step down at the bottom there. Okay. And there isn't a step. So if you look at that way, there's a step down at the bottom. That step is created in here so that the Servo Saver nut If I can get it all the way off of there. Actually fits inside there okay, right? So it fits in there really well when it's the right way. If it's the wrong way, you can see it doesn't fit in there. So this goes down and then this fits in there nice, and that's what starts the process. So we're going to grab, first thing we're going to do is we're going to key this bottom piece in the servo saver tube. So that's keyed in. This goes to the outside here. This big silver washer goes in here. We do have an optional spring in the package. I don't really recommend it. This works awesome. We just included the spring because when we first came out with this and did all of our testing, it worked great, but sometimes you just never know. And then this goes on with the portion that the nut fits in there well, facing up, right? And then I can take my thread lock, shake it up, and we're going to put some thread lock on here. You don't want to get it inside here. You want to get it on the threads. So you can do one of two things. You can pull that off and get it on here. This thing is basically going to live forever in one position. So you can use an ample amount. It's not going to hurt anything. Kind of spread it in there. Okay. So I got a good amount. Wipe that off with my finger. And then put this back on. And then we're going to screw this in. Okay. So this you want so that you have between 2 and 3 millimeters of the tube sticking up off the top, and you measure that using calipers, right? Turn them on, we go like this, and we're only 0.67, right? So this is the part where everybody gets mad at me usually. So I'm going to grab this with my pliers. I'm going to grab it well enough that it's not going to slip, and I'm going to turn and turn. Now this is a truggy, and I kind of turn it until there's a certain amount of resistance. And where did I end up? Let's just check. So that, if you guys look at that, that's still only that's 1.94 millimeters. So it seems like, oh my gosh, I'm crushing that thing on there. But that's not even technically to what the manual recommends. So again, I'll turn it a little bit further, and then I'm going to recheck it. Hey, John, how's it going, buddy? All right, now I'm at 2.14. So that's where I'm going to leave that. That thread lock will dry, and then that'll be good to go. But that's that side built. The other side, there's no servo saver on it, so you don't really need to do much there. So now, the way this works is this side is up. Imagine that. I'm going to grease the bottom here a little bit where these bushings go through. Okay, makes them last longer. It actually also helps for assembly. But I'm going to stick that bushing in the bottom there, stick that bushing in. Wipe off the excess around the edges because there's no need for it. Do you have to have the grease there? No, you don't have to have it. You should if you want it to last longer. But now those bushings are in there and I don't have to worry about them falling out or doing anything weird. I'm going to start with this side. Put one nut up in there. Now this is part, it's not in the manual, but it's something I like to do. So now at this point, I'm actually going to drop some thread lock down in this hole. And you can see I made a nice little pull. Just going to blow that in. Yeah, it got down into the nut. Let's just make sure. And I know it's a nylock nut, but with 8 scales, I'd rather be safe than sorry. Okay. And then I'm going to take and I'm going to wipe the excess off from there. Take this side with the up facing up, obviously. Grab one of the screws and put this through here. Now, we're going to go underneath here and just soak up all of the thread lock. Now, this is meant to be tightened snugly all the way, right? And that, you guys can see, still pivots freely. Okay, that's how it's meant to be. That should never come loose. I should never have a problem with that. Okay, so now I'll do the other side exactly the same. So I'll put a nut in the bottom here. Grab my thread lock. Put some in there. Blow it through. Wipe off the top. And then I'm going to put this in place. Thread lock on the finger. Now, guys, I'm not like, oh my gosh, putting a ton of force on there, but they should be tight. But you can see everything still moves freely, no play, good to go. If you put that grease in there, see how much easier it was to assemble everything. I didn't have to hold everything and kind of line it up. I just built it up and bam, it's done, right? That's everything for step H1. I'm just trying to turn here to, so step H2 is going to be putting the servo posts on. So this is going to take a couple M3 by 10 screws. And again, it should be these little guys, but here's how you measure a flathead screw. You measure a flathead screw all the way from the top to the bottom. Button head and cap head screws, they're measured from the bottom of the shank of the screw to the bottom of the threads, just so you guys know. I know most of you know this stuff, and I know I've gone over it 100 times, but, well, I'll just keep doing it. And then I put a tiny bit of thread lock on these. Not a ton, because surprisingly, these get pretty tight over time. Turn my drill up to 5. And then I actually put the screw through here first. And I thread this on a little bit, if I can see anything properly right now. Okay, and then I just go, I push it down, key it into the chassis, tighten. Okay. Do the other side here. Okay, and the other thing to always keep in mind is whenever you're using a drill or a wrench, you're always pushing into the hole. You're not just turning this way, you're pushing in and turning, right? That way you don't strip out any screws. I'm just going to tighten these up by hand. Get all the grease off my wrench. Okay. Then move some stuff out of the way. We're going to put these little shims on. Okay, and these shims are needed because if you look at the way the tube is relieved at the bottom, if we didn't have these shims, then the bearing, both races would ride on the bottom, and you don't want that. Things wouldn't always turn freely. So you put the 2 shims on, put a bearing on each tube. Put your belt cranks on. Now the manual says to put your bearings in the top here, so you can put your bearings in the top there. So there's your bearings in. So now you can see moves nice and freely. Then we're going to put the front chassis brace in. So the first thing I'm going to do is these nuts slide in, okay? And I'm sliding it in such that the metal of the nut is towards where the screw is going to come from, and the nylock of it is the back side. So I'm just going to slide that in. Push it in, make sure it went in all the way. Slide that one in. Now, I've seen people go so far as to like glue these in or different things. If something falls out, in this case, nothing's fallen out, but if something were to fall out, I'll usually just use a tad bit of like black grease to keep it in there. Because that way, if I strip a screw or something, I can easily replace it. So, and now we're going to get some M3x12 screws, 2 of these, and we're going to screw this in place. I'm going to push it up through the bottom, kind of get that started by hand. And then tighten. I can turn this to where it's pretty much lined up. I'm going to put my hand over the nut and then put the back screw in. And then I'm going to tighten both of these with my hand. Those screws I check all the time. Those 2 bottom screws for the front chassis brace, they can have a tendency to back off over time just with it really trying to yaw on the front of the car so much. So just check those from time to time. Nothing hurts to check them. Gavin, how do I get stickers sent to me in South Africa? I honestly, if you want to message me or email me your information, I can try to take it to the post office and they can try to tell me how to send it. So that's the best I got for that. I'm the only person that has the corrected stickers right now. So, so the next part is to get your front end and get this on the drive shaft, which is the boot. Okay, so let me talk about center drive shafts again, and I've mentioned this before, so those of you that have watched my videos already know this, but I'm going to mention it for those that haven't. The direction your car goes in the direction your shaft goes into the car initially doesn't make any difference. It's the same shaft either way. But however it goes in there, it needs to stay that way. And one of the best ways to do that is to use the boot that keeps it in place. For those of you that don't like to use these boots or can't get it on without ripping it, I'd recommend you take like a silver Sharpie, or in this case, this has some marking on it. I would always put that marking towards the center diff so that you know which way the front rear bone goes. So you just, if it falls out when I'm working on it, that bone always goes in the same way. Second thing is, the best thing I've found to put these wonderful shafts in is diff oil. I've tried grease, I've tried shock oil, I've tried diff oil. And so far, this has been the best. It's messy, but it works pretty well. So you put the pin through, and then you just slide it over, and just like that. Okay, that was not difficult. It's just a matter of having the proper lubrication, guys. Most of you should know about that. So I am going to clean off as much of it as I can, just because I don't want it to splatter all over the car. It's a new car. Should look pretty. Right? And then there we go. And this is a grease cup, so you might want to pull it back and grease this side. I don't usually, just because I can't grease the other side. So it's like I want both of them to be the same. So anyway, that's all there is to putting this boot on a cup or on a shaft. So then line those up, put that around there, and all that lines up. And now that shaft is there permanently. I am still going to take a silver Sharpie and mark this side of the bone, because that's the side that's towards the diff, because that's just what I do. So that takes care of that. We're all the way through H5 now. H6 is to put this, which is the gasket, onto the chassis. So that the gasket is just the outside edge, not that center part. That center part works really well if you want to like have some padding for your like receiver pack or whatnot. So that's what I use to give some padding to my receiver pack from time to time. And then you just work it into all the corners and push it in there. Just seals the bottom of the gearbox from getting any debris in there. So now we're going to put the front clip onto the chassis. So if some of you have followed along in this video, you know that I did not grease the ring and pinion. So now is when I put grease on the ring and pinion. I'm also going to get my driver ready. It's on 10 on low with a 2.5 bit with a screw already on it. So I just take, right, I'm going to get some, and I just use black grease for the ring and pinion. Nothing too crazy. And this isn't like, this will spread around some, so you guys don't have to go overly crazy and make sure you get this in every little tooth. So there we go. So now I am all, yep, sounds good. Got the grease in. So now we're going to go ahead and put the front clip on. So this is just a matter of sliding it back through, lining the bone up. Grab my pliers here. Like so. All right. So remember what I was saying earlier about putting these bearings in place? You can't just flip the truck upside down right now because these bearings and bell cranks are in place. So you can either hold them and flip it upside down, or you can hold it and just kind of turn it at a little bit of a cant. And then I'm going to put the back 2 screws in while I'm still holding the bearings in for the bell cranks, guys. Okay, you just slide the bumper in here. And then we put the front 2 screws in. So nothing too crazy. I'm just going to torque all these down, make sure they're tight. Maybe. Okay. Look like that. Almost looks like a car. We're getting there. Pretty soon it'll actually look like a car. Doesn't take long. So now the next thing is we're going to put the front triangle brace on. We do sell an aluminum one of these. We do not sell the black with silver edged aluminum one of these at this time. The one that comes with the Elite cars. That's special just for the Elite guys. So if you buy an aluminum brace, you get the normal standard hard anodized one, and it works great, and it's no problem. Okay, so this, going back to high, going back to 5. And then we're going to grab these button heads that are going in are M3 by 14 millimeter. So you're going to use 4 of these. It's the same screw for the front going into the bulkhead. and then for them going into the bell cranks. Now, if you're using the plastic top, usually you can put this in tight enough and the screw kind of grabs the plastic. You don't need thread lock. It never hurts to use thread lock. And then the center screw is a flathead M3x12. Okay. And I'm just going to double check these. Now these front two screws up here, you don't need to get too crazy on, you know. You just want to make sure everything's tight. These two go into metal, so you can tighten them in a little extra. And this goes into a nut, so you can make sure that one's nice and tight. Right? So this still moves freely, which is what we want to see. Everything's still moving well. Set this to the side. And the next thing is we're going to build up this servo arm. Now this is 30 millimeters long. Okay. And it's supposed to have 10 millimeters between. So that means 10 goes into this, 10 goes into this. Okay. And this is broached on one end, right? It's a big long set screw. So, whoops, really got that started straight. So we're just going to run this in until it looks like we have about 20 millimeters left over. And then we'll measure it. And my poor caliper's batteries are dying. Should replace those. Oh, we got 19.65. So that's pretty darn close. So we'll start the other side now. I'm holding the center. You really shouldn't have to. The pressure between the two of them is pretty similar. And then you put the other side on until you have 10 millimeters left in the middle and the two sides are flat. So, and it doesn't have to be exact, guys. It can be adjusted with sub trim. So there's that side. So then I'm going to put the balls in it. And again, see if I can show you this. If you look at this side, the plastic all looks the same. But if you look at that side, you can see the shiny ring around it. I'm going to put the ball in through the side that has the shiny because that's the part that pushed out of the mold. Do I have to? No. Is it easier to get in that way? Yeah. And it usually makes it so it spins nice and free. And then I'm going to put the steering servo arm on. One of the few parts I'll recommend to people to upgrade is the servo horn. A number of us have run this plastic one with no problems, but it's got some flex to it and it's not going to be as precise. So I always just recommend changing that out. It is, of course, your call. You don't have to. It's your choice. But I'd rather know that I'm going to finish my race. So that's tight on there now. So I put the servo horn on. Okay, and now it goes on to the car. So this part's always a little fun. So here's how I usually get this nut in because it's really hard to get it up under there. I'll stick just a wrench. This is my 1.5. It helps me kind of get it lined up with the hole. And then right, and I'll screw that in a little bit and pull the nut up with it. So now I got that in. This goes down through here. And there you go. Then you pick the right one of these little inserts to go on your servo. Can't see as well as I used to. A good trick for those of you that have older eyes is you can take a picture of it and then zoom in on the image with your phone. Most of us older folks already know that. Anyway, there's the 23. Cap head screws in here for. Your servo will also come with a screw. I do recommend putting thread lock in here. I'm going to change this out, but I'm just showing you guys. So I would put thread lock in here for sure. You always want to thread lock metal to metal, and this going into the servo is metal. And you'll notice I didn't like push everything on necessarily all the way. Hey, Brett, I'll let the screw pull it on, and we tighten that really good, and you can see everything's moving nice and free. 6290 steering servo. Hi, Ivor. Hopefully, sorry this took so long to finish it out, but we're just gonna keep cruising along here. The next thing to do is put the steering links on. Wherever those ended up in here. There they are. They're hidden. All right. And again, so now if we look at our truck, you can see both of the lines on the steering links are on the left-hand side, or the driver's side in the US. These links are going to go on the same way. So I'm going to look for this line, and both of these are going to go on. So those are the same direction. Okay. And I need these 4 screws, these 4 washers, and these 4 nuts to do this. These 3, I don't need anymore. They can just go throw them in the box. So this part is screw, washer, and doesn't matter which way they go as long as you got the line on that side. Get that nut started. Usually go down to where I can't turn it very easily anymore. Now this screw can go in this way or in this way. It doesn't really matter. For me, it's easier to put in from the bottom. So I'm going to put the screw and the nut, and that way their heads are all on the same side. And then this is going to come right in to this rear hole. And then I'm just going to hand thread this nut on. And now we're going to come to the other side. Same thing. Screw, bump washer. That's what that's referred to as. And then nut. You'll see why I do all this like I did. It's just, for me, it's the fastest way. And then the screw goes through the pivot ball. The washer goes on there. This goes in the rear hole. And there we go. So now I can come through here, and in one fell swoop, I can put my wrench underneath, and I can tighten all these up. Now, if I were going to do like a long main, like a 30-minute main or something like that, I probably would also add thread lock onto all these nuts. Just because that's just how I'm built. If there's somewhere I can put thread lock or shoe glue or something for the longer mains, I mean, we go to these races and we spend all this time and energy and money on everything, and there's nothing worse than having a single nut kind of cost you. Something comes loose and comes off. All right, so there's that. So now those are all on there. The next thing I'm going to do is just kind of get these semi-close. So there's the center there. All right, and these we want to have a little bit of toe out, a little less. You want the camber to be up a little bit, and camber affects toe. So anytime you're trying to affect camber and toe, you want to, you know, kind of adjust accordingly. So there's, well, that's centered. Got a little bit of, just a little bit of toe out there, so that's okay. So now, come to this side and get it closer. And guys, I know these turnbuckles for steering are a tiny bit shorter than the manual says. We haven't had a single problem with any issue with it. It's not an, you know, a huge thing. Let me bring this in some. Okay, so you'll see as I shorten this, it toes it in some, right? And we want a little bit of toe out. Those are probably a little bit more than I want. All right, so now the next thing I'm going to do right this second, so I don't forget, is these don't matter. The rear camber links don't matter. All that matters, these two steering links, they need to be the same size, the same length, so that right to left you have the same Ackerman. So now that they're pretty close, I'm going to come in here. And I am 75.45 on one side. Sorry, I'm very much right-handed, guys. And 74.39 on the other, right? Oh, 74.45. So this side was 74.45. And this is 75.45, right? So this one needs to get a little bit shorter and this one a little bit longer. And then I'm just going to double check them. We probably want about 75. So yeah, there's 75 to start off with. We'll do the rest of the stuff on the when it's set up at the end. That's 74.84. So we will just give that a tiny bit more and call that a day. Okay. So that's a good start to getting the front end pretty much ready to go. And you can see there's still, you know, probably 6 millimeter of thread in each side there. So no problem. Michael. Hi, Ryan. Thanks. I received the 8XTE decal set. I bought the 8XE Elite buggy. Does it come with wheels? The buggy comes with wheels, yes, because 8-scale buggy wheels are all the same size. The truggy does not come with wheels because all the truggy wheels are different sizes. Hi, GJ. So that's bag H. So front end's on the car. I can throw these bags away now. Now it's time for bag I. Now, bag I is the engine stuff. I don't have an extra engine laying around, guys. I'm sorry. I would consider. I did a full in-depth install of the engine in the 8X Elite video. So if you go to our TLR YouTube channel, you can look at bag I for that side of things for the engine install. But I will talk through a couple things here for you guys as far as the engine and the clutches and whatnot go. So what I'm going to do here is let's go ahead and open up bag I. So bag I gets the rear end on the car, is all the stuff for mounting the engine and the clutch and all that. So let me put everything out here. So the one thing about the truggy now is it does use the same clutch bell and spur gear as the buggy, which is nice. You don't have to carry quite as much around now, which is great. Here is what we need for getting the rear clip on. So now, again, same thing. This drive shaft for the rear of the truggy is marked. I always put the marking through, right? So that it ends up, in this case, I'm going to put it through this way so that it ends up near the, like if you look at what I did in the front, and I like to make a match. If you look at what I did in the front, the drive shaft marking is towards the inside. It just makes it easier to read. So first thing I'm going to do, I get my diff oil. And we're going to put a tiny bit there. Oops, got a little bit carried away there. And then we're going to put this end through, assuming I can grab it because it's slippery now. And that's it. No problems, no ripping, no tearing. This comes down here. And that's why I use the diff lube. It actually is very, very good for getting that on there. So there's that. And then we're going to put that on here. Maybe. See, guys, sometimes it goes easy, sometimes it doesn't, but you're just stretching this around. I keep getting it stuck because the brace is in the way. There we go. So, and then you line up the lines with the pin of the drive shaft. Okay, and then I'm going to go through, and I'm still going to mark this in case it falls out of that boot, so I know which way it was. Okay, so I have my marking, I have the marking. I know which way it's all going to go always, but it's just how it is. I'm also going to now turn it over, and I'm going to lube the ring gear here. Like so. I can close that up because I don't think I use it again, but we'll see. And then the next part is to put all this fun stuff in place. So again, you can see right off the bat, I already stuck my finger into the grease. That's exactly why I don't grease them right off the bat. But what I do here is, here's the truggy. The very first thing I put in place is the drive shaft, and I'm going to just set that there for right this second. I had my nuts off to the side here because I know that I notoriously turn this over and they fall out. So I'm going to just put those right back in. Those were from a previous step. Okay, so there's those. This drive shaft, let me get the hair off of there from the wonderful world of cats. And the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put the screws for the center brace in first. So okay, now I didn't fully tighten that first one, but I'm trying to put my finger over these so I can, there we go. That's two. And there we go. I knew that was going to happen. So now I can lift this up. And the nut that's in here fell when I turned it upside down, which happens to me all the time. Watch this. Take this out. Arg. Come on. Oh, I'm going to bend stuff now. Never mind. So. It doesn't help that my bit is magnetized. All right. Well, sorry guys. Anyway, I'll take care of that later. I'm not gonna keep messing with it. There we go. Ugh. So here's what I'm gonna do. All right, this is kind of the way I prefer, so I can get in here. This is really actually how I prefer to put this rear end together. If it were up to me, I would bolt that foot on before it's all said and done, but you guys are going to get to see all the faces today. So see, took the center out and just pop this off. I'm going to set that to the side. Put this screw in. There we go. All right, now we can put this in. Just like that. I got all 3 screws in. Tighten them up. Now let's put this all back on. Okay. So, as you guys can see, it happens to all of us. I will never, ever say to anybody, it's like, oh, how did that happen to you? Why? Because it happens to all of us. So, in. There we go. Now I can take this screw from the side here and put this back in. Hey, Felipe. One of our Mexico compatriots there. Really nice guy. Charlie Mack. Ryan, clutch spring question. I know the spring rates are colored black, green, gold, silver, from soft to hard. Is there a way to identify the spring rate without color? Well, I know why some people want to do that, because they've run springs so long there's no colors on them anymore. You should be replacing your springs every 1 to 2 sets of clutch shoes to make sure that your clutch stays correct. But you can actually measure them. So again, this is going to go to low on 10. There's 2 different diameters and 2 different bends to them, basically. So that's, you could separate them into 2 sets of 2, but you'll never be able to fully identify them because you would have to have a way to tell the angle of them. So yeah, the biggest problem I think with the springs is the colors. For me, like gold almost looks like charcoal or something. Or no, green. It's green that almost looks like charcoal colored. Gold's the really shiny one. And I guess that's probably what you need to know the most. Okay. Now that I got all this together, we are going to go and we're going to retighten this screw right here. So we're going to loosen it up. And we're going to loosen this one up. Kind of get on these things a bit just to make sure everything's set really well. I mean, they really shouldn't be able to move much, but never hurts. And then these two screws should be pretty tight, guys. Like, you get in there and tighten them good. And now I have front and rear on the thing, right? Rolling good, good to go. Okay, so now that's kind of set off to the side. So now normally we'd put basically the clutch and engine in. And that's just like every other car that we've had. Oops. I didn't turn the page. So I forgot the rear gasket. So I will have to go back there and put that back in. So anyway, that was supposed to go in, and then I was supposed to put the bottom on. I get excited putting these things together. So the big things about the clutch that I always want to point out is the engine screws. You always want to motor spray off. Make sure they're clean and get some thread lock on there. The flywheel, you want to make sure you use our collet, the collet that's packaged in the kit, not the collet that came with your engine, which is right here. It's with the clutch shoes. And then there's a bunch of different clutch shoes and springs we offered. There's 3 different clutch shoes we offer. We have the carbon one, the blue aluminum, and the silver aluminum long wear ones. They all grab different, and then there's 4 different springs. And those go black, green, gold, silver. For the truggy, the clutch that we most often run is what's in the kit to build it that way, which is building it with composite blue, and then we put the gold spring on the composite and the silver spring on the blue. It's a fairly aggressive clutch, but for a truggy to get that grunt out of the corner and make it feel more like a buggy, it's really, really important. The other thing to understand is your air cleaner comes very, very, very well oiled. You want to clean this off. So I am going to show that part because it's important. So I'm going to grab some paper towels here, guys, an ample amount. When I do this, I usually use 2 blue rags. In this case, I'm going to use 2 full Costco. But I'm also going to try to squeeze out some of the oil into this bag. So, so you can see it's really oily. So you're just going to take and rub. You want to move it back and forth because you ultimately want it to be the same color all the way. Right? We just keep kind of working it. Turn the paper towel. Okay. Just kind of keep going here. You can see where it started, where it is kind of now. I'm going to take a look at it now. So you want some oil on there. You don't want it like, oh my gosh, it's going to grab every single little bit and stick to it. So that's pretty good. The color's even. It's still leaving a tiny bit of oil on the rag, but now I can just try to get some of that oil back out of my rag, but that can just go in the trash. But that's kind of what we do for the filters. If you leave all that oil in there, no air comes through. So the engine doesn't breathe. and then on top of it, it gooks up or gets coated in dust really fast. And then again, your engine doesn't breathe. And then the other thing to understand is this has two sides to it. One has two ribs and one only has one rib. The side with one rib is what goes onto here. Okay. So you take that, twist that into place, and put a zip tie over that. Let's see, it'll be this way. So it's gonna, oops, don't do that. I'm gonna turn it until the hole, there he goes, is facing up and down. And then you put a zip tie on that. And then this side goes fully over the carb and you put a zip tie on that. I've seen some people put these reversed, and that's one reason why I wanted to just mention that. And you can see it goes on there, guys. You just gotta get it on there, tighten it, cut it off. Right, and then this goes on the other side. There's nothing in there. There should never be anything in there. And then the other thing is when you're putting the flywheel on, you want to make sure to motor spray off the shaft of the engine, clean it off really well, put the collet on, and then put the clutch, the flywheel on, and then tighten that and put some thread lock, some good blue thread lock, fill the threads with thread lock, and tighten that on as hard as you can. I've seen some people go and they're like, eh. It's like, no, you're relying on that little copper, brass, collet to have enough pressure against the cone of this flywheel that it's not going to just spin on the shaft. And then the other thing I want to mention is the clutch pins go through here, right? Well, actually, I can build up the clutch really quick because, I'm going to show you whatever I can. Might as well. I can find a little Ziploc baggie for the rest of this stuff when it's all said and done. So let's just build the clutch up for you guys. And the clutch takes these little pins that have a little bit of thread and is flat. Guys, you need to replace these pins every so often. They do get worn out over time because they've constantly got pressure and heat digging into them. So it's just not going to work. So that's gold. Gold is shiny. Silver is shiny, right? Both of these, that's 1.0, 1.0, right? So both of these, both gold and silver, are the same thickness of wire, and they're both shiny, but one's gold and one's silver. They're bent at different degrees, so they engage different. So when you build this, grab a carbon shoe, grab a gold spring, and it goes right in there. I don't know if maybe this one, and you can see it's sticking out there. You push it in place, and you put this into the shoe, and then you got to kind of line up the hole of the spring, and you push it all the way in, and take a 1.5, and you push pressure this way because you're pushing against that spring. Push that in, and this is a 1.5, and you tighten that. Now, I'm not Herculean tightening it. I am definitely not putting thread lock there. I've had that question recently. And you also want to make sure the flywheel is facing this way. It's called trailing, right? Because the flywheel spins counterclockwise, which means this is coming backward. The shoe's trailing. Okay, and then I just go right around. Come on. Right, and then I'll just keep going around the circle. Our clutch is one of the easiest to build out there, I think. I've built a lot of different clutches in the days. It's also one of the reasons why everybody's got a copy of it now, or something that's similar. Maybe not a copy, but and that's fair. I don't care. Kind of stuff doesn't bother me. So there we go. There we go. Sometimes you just got to push a little bit here and there until you get. I mean, you're getting this, and that all lined up. So you got to get 5 different things lined up all in one go. And that goes in there. So if anybody has questions as you have them, feel free to ask them. That way I can kind of answer them as I'm just finishing wrenching on some stuff. Again, no thread lock on the clutch pins. That's for you, Charlie. Not because Charlie did it, but he had the question from one of his guys the other day. And yeah, they're like, oh, we strip the pins out all the time. It's like, well, no, shouldn't ever strip them out. And you can see, just like that, my clutch is built. This could go right in my box just like this and be ready to go for another day. I don't have any springs that got stuck into my fingers. I don't have any of that stuff. Now, the other thing to understand when you're putting the flywheel on, you put the flywheel on, and then this bearing goes in the back, right? This, you don't want to ride up against that metal to metal. So once you have this on and the clutch nut in place, you basically shim this out until it just doesn't touch. And that, when I mean doesn't touch, I mean you take it and push, and this metal doesn't hit that metal. Okay, and that's how many shims you want behind this bearing, and that's these little shims here, right? Then you put shims on this side until you've just got a very, very little amount of play. You don't want no play, and you don't want this moving all over the place because this is going to engage. Now, and then you tighten up the end and put some thread lock on it, and you're good to go. You've got your clutch set up. You know, you definitely put thread lock in here when you're putting these on, all of that stuff. On the truggy, we do run the 5th screw, for now anyway. And then the other thing you want to do is the clutch bell. You always want to spray off the inside with some, because let me see if I can find a clean spot on a towel. You always want to spray off the inside, because as you can see, there's crap there, and you want this to grab as good as you can. You know, that's your clutch. It's what's making your car go. So you want to spray this off, and then I'll usually take, there's green and red scouring pad. I'll usually take some of this red stuff and just scrape it a little bit, and then I'll clean it off again, just so the surface is abrasive, and then I'll get that on there. But more or less, that's all the important stuff about getting the engine in. The only other thing is this pipe hanger. Depending on what pipe you use, you might have to cut it down so that the end of this doesn't get into your servo bell crank. So just so you guys know, you know, I don't have an engine. Hopefully that's all the questions you have. If you have more questions, please ask them here. I know I didn't show it all. I don't have anything else to show, or I would show you guys. Just like that. That's really frustrating that I didn't put that in. So as you saw, I'm not packaging this up with all these things, because if I do, it's just going to get everything oily. So I'm just putting this back in another bag, and when I get this truck to where it goes, I'll get it in there. And that gets the engine in. The other thing is, oh, we talked about that on there, so that's good. Yeah, then it's just body pins and wheel nuts are in this bag J, which also has your option parts. So there's other sway bars in here and some double-sided tape, and there's a wrench in here and a 4-way wrench, you know, some things that you might need, but your wheel nuts are in here and your body pins are in here for your body, and then the bladders if you want bladders. Just all that kind of stuff, just extra odds and ends. But yeah, I mean, more or less, that's a truggy, and it's good to go. Now from here, I would definitely recommend. I did a video for the 8X Elite series of kind of after it was all together and setting your brake bias, setting your endpoints, setting all of that stuff. I definitely, if I were you, I would go look at that video. Again, it's on TLR's YouTube channel. It'll be the last video in the playlist for the 8X Elite. I'd take a look at it, and definitely would be some good things there. Let's see here. All right, so let me go up here and answer some questions, and then we'll get you guys out of here. What are the most popular upgrades for the 8XT? So far, what I've found is the aluminum front triangle is pretty popular. Obviously, the aluminum servo horn. You don't necessarily have to have the aluminum throttle, but a lot of people like it because it makes your brake feel more consistent. It's not really because you're worried about breaking this. It's just a feel thing. And then the carbon front arm inserts, and then the aluminum 17.5 caster blocks. That's really what's been the popular upgrades. You know, we sell spring sets that have all 3 spring rates that we offer for the truck. I've had a couple questions on those. Those do go in the normal order. It's the same order as the rest of our Evo springs. So the lowest rate is brown, and then red, orange, yellow. And that's the whole progression of the truggy springs. And then what else? Yeah, that's most of the popular upgrades. We do, of course, have a lot of the stuff from the buggy will fit, or we do offer the carbon towers for the front and rear, that kind of thing. Hunter Fix. Hey, Ryan, for the 8XT I recently built, when the shock stroke is all the way out, why the universals rub on the arm stiffeners in the rear? If the droop is set to what we're running it on the setup sheet under extreme yaw, the drive shaft will barely rub the center of the arm. But because it's not like rubbing all the time, not under normal circumstances, it's usually when you're crashing or something. We hadn't found any adverse reaction to it. So, but we don't ever recommend running full length of the shock. We're trying to get the shock up into the stroke a little bit on the truggy. It's something we learned when we were doing a lot of the buggy stuff. So that's why the shock is actually longer than the arm and drive shaft allow. So we can keep the shock in the stroke. So the piston's not always bottoming out on the shock body. So that's why it can. What side of the spring goes into the shoe? The long end of the spring goes into the shoe. The short end goes against the flywheel. What does this? Yeah, I bet that was a pain. GJ, I did not set the droop on this. So for those that are wondering, we set the droop on our same TLR droop blocks that set up, and then the car goes on it. when you're setting the droop, okay, you always set the droop and it measures. So we usually use a 8IGHT gauge to set the droop, right? And we measure it to right here. Okay, not here, not to the center here, to right here. So when we're talking about droop, that's what we mean. So we put it on the blocks and we measure it from the table to that point. That's how we measure droop on all of our 8-scale cars using our TLR droop blocks. They're 36 millimeters tall. And we're running 2720, so 27 millimeters front distance between the pit board and the thread portion of the wheel hex there, and 20 millimeters in the rear. Yeah, I bet. GJ, yes, if we make this correction is halfway up the stroke to the shock, would only be able to use half the suspension stroke. I'm not entirely sure what you're talking about there, Hunter. If you have a question, though, feel free to hit me up on Facebook. I've got 2 or 3 different pages. Hi, I'm going to say Maik Preller. Hello. Hey, John. Just want to let you know, pick up a pair of alligator tweezers on Amazon will help you with a lot of the small tight spots. I bet, yeah. There's a couple tools I used to have, but my entire Ogio bag at one point got stolen. And that was my tools that I'd had since I was, 8, 10, 7 years old doing this. All those little tiny specialty things. So I still haven't kind of found all the stuff that I want. But yeah, I appreciate that. I'm always on the hunt for a good tool. And then Larry, do you recommend the aluminum top brace? I do. It tends to make the front end as a whole, suspension, steering, all of that just feel more consistent. So it's the first thing I do is I always call it the triangle. I call the top the triangle and then the part that comes down the front brace. But technically, both of those are a type of front brace. You have the front steering brace and the front chassis brace. But I do run the front top triangle steering brace for sure. Let's see. My kid is driving Losi, but I drive Associated. What is the main reason to me buy Losi? That's one of those age-old questions. I have found that when I've run the same product with either the people I always go to the track with or the people I'm related to that I go to the track with, it's just easier for us because we can all help each other with setup a lot easier. And then if we break parts, usually one of us will have it. So that's probably the main reason I'd at least run the same brand. Whether to pick Associated or Losi, I'd probably pick the brand that you feel you get the most support from, or the brand that the local hobby shop carries the most parts for. If all of that's even, well, then I'd set up both as best you can and drive and use the one that you finish the most races with first and that you feel most comfortable driving. So I don't like to play this brand versus that brand game. I mean, I work for TLR, I work for Horizon. I'm always going to say, yeah, of course you should run a TLR car, but I can't tell everybody to do that because that's just, I want everybody to run one and I want to make the best cars that are out there. But, different strokes for different folks, as they say. But I think that is mostly everything I wanted to cover. Again, if you need or want stickers, I say want, not need. The winglet stickers, most people don't run. You are, of course, welcome to just message me. I just need your name and your shipping address, and I will ship them out. It usually takes me between 1 to 2 days to get them shipped out. If there's something overseas, then I got to go to the post office and try to figure out how to do it. So far, I've got Canada down. That's not too difficult. I do have to go to the post office for it, but that's fine. The the main reason I guess a lot of people want it is for the grill sticker, and that's totally understandable. If your painter's painting it, usually they'll throw a grill on there for you, and then it doesn't really matter. So, other than that, I mean, hopefully you guys enjoyed the videos. The next best thing you can do is after you build the car is find somebody that knows what they're doing at the track, and then print out the setup guide, guys. There's a setup guide in the back of this manual. It's also on our website. These are our tips and tricks. We don't put these together lightly, but there's a full setup guide in here that goes through everything, what to do when you're getting started, what to check. If I want to change this, what does it do? It's pages and pages long. It's really small print, so we tried to make it smaller print but still legible, so you'd have less to keep in your pit bag. The other thing is you could just take high-res pictures of all the different pages so that as you're trying, you can scroll in. Yeah, GJ, download to your phone. I just take pictures of everything and leave them in separate folders. Like this goes in my setup sheet folder. But this is online, guys. We're trying to help you out as best we can. This goes through everything from the wonderful world of roll centers to changing springs to changing camber to clutches to everything. And then the next thing I'll say is, guys, this is a hobby. Get out there, be positive around everybody else in the hobby. I see so much negativity out there these days, and people complaining about this or that thing sucks or that brand sucks or this or that. The best thing you can ever do for this hobby is to help people have fun in it. Sure, I'd love you to run our Horizon products. I'd love you to run TLR race cars. But if you're at the track and you're not having fun, I don't care what you're running. I'm going to walk up to you and be like, hey, dude, is there anything I can help with? Maybe this, maybe that. And I'm going to help anybody that I can, because the more people that are in this hobby having fun, doing it for what it's meant to be, the more fun it's going to be for all of us too. So, and it'll keep the hobby alive and well and around. Things die off. Don't let it die off, guys. But yeah, be positive, help others out. If you know what you're doing, go help your buddies, go help their buddies. What do we got here? Julian, sorry. When it comes to extra parts for the Losi 8XE Elite, what parts should I have on hand? I will do an XE Elite build. Probably going to have to wait to start until next week. I was hoping to be able to start this week, but there's just a lot going on. But just so you know, I will do a build on that too. Just so that kind of there's a build for all three of them out there, even though they kind of cross quite a bit. But as far as the XE Elite, probably some of the big things I'd have, if you don't have the aluminum, some people, the aluminum caster blocks, I'd probably make sure those are on your car. I'd have some extra kingpins, probably have a set of extra front arms, and probably at least one front and rear shock shaft just as extras. Those are probably the big things I see most people having trouble with here and there, that either are new and hit stuff or hit stuff really hard because they're good and they go fast and they still miss, like me. But yeah, those are the big things I'd always recommend. Michael, hey, thanks, buddy. I love to hear the positive stuff too. We like to know that we're on at least the right path, if not hit the bullseye, or at least got a 90 out of 100, because that helps us know what we need to work on more for the future, right? So if we have something that's a 95 or 100, well, but we have something over here that's maybe a 70 or 75, well, where should we put our time? Well, we don't know. It's like, okay, well, I don't know. I put equal time here and here. No, I need to put a bigger portion of time over here where it's 75 or 100, right? So I do appreciate the positive comments, not just because it's like, ooh, yay, we did good. It's more to help us manage our resources, right? So thank you, Michael. I do appreciate it. Would you happen to know why there's no rear replacement arms available for the current RTR truggy? I can't get an answer from Horizon. They keep giving me wrong part number. Need rear arms for RTR. No, I actually don't know why that is. I haven't had a single person ask me about that. If you want to message me, or I'm one of the guys that also handles the messages for the Team Losi Racing Facebook page. If you want to message, like inbox them, either way, find me and I will try to look into that for you. I do manage the 8 scale stuff. That wasn't my project, but it doesn't mean I can't take a look into it for you. We definitely should have arms. I mean, it might just be that we're out of stock with COVID and everything. We're out of stock on a lot of stuff because we've been burning through a lot of product. So let's see here. Thank you guys. I hope you guys enjoy the videos. Let's see, Dustin, I answered this a couple times in here, but you would contact me. So message me on Facebook, either through my Ryan Dunford or through Team Losi Racing. Either way, I just need your name and your shipping address information, full shipping address, and then I can get it out to you. If it's international, I need your phone number too, because they want that on the package. And yeah, as Charlie Mack said, the RTR for the truggy is the 3.0 arms. So if you go to the 3.0 page and look up that part number, that's the right part number. So, and again, don't leave your information here in the chat messages. I won't ever see it again. Just send me a PM, email me something. You can find me, track me down. I'm the one that has them. They're all right over there. Right over there. Anyway, have a good night, guys. And hopefully you guys are enjoying your trucks, those that have them and built them and have run them. And if you don't have one yet, try your buddies, go run one. Man, I missed having it. The truggy's awesome. It's a good truggy. It's strong. It's fast. It's easy to drive fast. If it's not easy to drive fast, something is fundamentally not to the base setup. The base setup's pretty good. The setup I have posted in mine is probably a tiny bit better, just because the shock package is slightly changed. It's, again, when I did the shock video here, I did drill out the holes so you guys could see me do it live. I would recommend that to anybody for any track surface. Yeah, I mean, let me know if you need something. You know where to find me if you have questions, guys. Everybody take care. I'm going to go ahead and have a good night, and hopefully everybody else does too. Take care.